Welcome to the podcast. Here today, I welcome Marcel Blinde. Marcel has over 20 years experience working within the TIC industry, with his most recent position being the group CEO of Iris NDT. However, has also led global business lines for companies such as DECRA and Applus. Welcome, Marcel.
Yeah, thank you, Thomas. Thanks for having me in the podcast. And it's always interesting to talk about, the TIC industry.
Very good. Awesome. So first question, can you share an overview of your career journey and how you got started within your field?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've been working in the TIC industry already since '93. So my whole career is in there. I'm a chemical engineer by trade, which, when you look at TIC, doesn't make that much sense. But I was looking for an intern position to finish up my degree. And my sister actually was working for RTD at that time, and she said, "Hey, you can do it with us." And so I started there in the probe department, looking at damping materials of ultrasonic probes, which was the closest they got to a chemical, a chemical assignment.
Yeah.
I like the company a lot. Very interesting company with a lot of freedom for people to explore their own possibilities. I worked in the development department for a couple of years, but I saw that the real adventure was in operations. I created a strong offshore department from scratch with a very loyal group of people. At the end was their COO for about 5 years, out of a total of 20 years with them, and then joined DECRA as their managing director to start growing their international business, and then realized that they wanted not to grow too fast internationally. So I joined Iris NDT as the CEO and relocated to Edmonton in Canada, which was a great adventure. Recently moved back to the Netherlands and active in consultancy and helping PE firms in the TIC industry. That's what I'm currently doing.
Very good. Can you discuss any significant risks you've taken over your career and how have they shaped your professional trajectory so far?
Yeah, I mean, it's two different events, come to mind. One in the beginning of my career and one, really later on. With RTD, we secured a job in the Gulf of Mexico, but we didn't have the needed equipment to service that client. And
Right.
we had to build 20 AUT inspection units within 4 weeks. And
Wow.
normally that takes a year if you order them. But we did build them ourselves because we had to operate on 3 different lay barges. We pulled it off with a really very dedicated team of people. And what I learned from that is, as long as you have the team loyal, committed, and doing everything there, you could pull anything off. That was a really interesting thing and a big risk. I mean, not delivering when the lay barge is waiting is that's a killer for a company. The other part is later when I joined Iris NDT actually and moved the whole family to Edmonton. There was a completely different kind of risk. My oldest son also went to university. Youngest son went to school. So that was for the family one big adventure. And what I learned from that is better understanding of different cultures. You think you know different cultures when you're dealing with international companies, but if you're really in a different culture, and Canada is not that much different from Europe, but still it is, and also the impact of relocation. I mean, I underestimated that. I mean, so also when I look at relocating people within a company, that's a big step.
Very good. On the customer side, so how do you develop and maintain strong relationships with your customers and clients?
Well, you really need to keep in contact with your customer. I mean, it can go through different ways. When you start communicating, then do cold calling or have them from a project. But what you need to do, even when you don't have a project, keep in touch, and don't push that much for new things. But you need to keep in touch. And operation usually is sort of like a fire squad. I mean, they put out fire, they run, and they they go for it, and then they go on to the next project. But sometimes also it's good to admit your mistakes. When you make one, admit it, and it's always a good starting point when you make a mistake and you come to your client, okay, hey, this went wrong, and this is how we can improve. So that's really giving you a much better, let's say, understanding of a customer and of you that you really want to deliver. And also important is connect on the corporate and operational level. And it doesn't need to be the same person, also from your own company, but you really need to understand what they're thinking from a corporate level and also from an operational level.
Very good. So what strategies or methodologies do you employ to drive efficiency and productivity in your operations?
Yeah, that's actually a very simple one. I mean, I'm typically using the revenue per hour and the occupational degree on people, and that are the main KPIs to follow. And something you need to watch at, let's say, look at every week, which is for an occupational degree quite easy. For a revenue per hour, a little bit more complicated, so that's maybe once a month. But these two KPIs you will be able to steer really a company, and making sure that you're not losing any money. Yeah, because if occupational degree is, if you're only focusing on one of the two, then you get fooled. Because especially when you look at only occupational degree, then they just park people on a chargeable project without being chargeable. But then you see, of course, your revenue per hour going down. So these are the main two topics you really look at.
In your experience, what are some of the common pitfalls or obstacles that operational leaders encounter, and how do you navigate them?
Yeah, that's typically when the market is booming and growing like crazy, which happens every 3 years or so, because you have a dip every 5 years. But then they're spending so much money in trying to make, let's say, deliver the projects, that they're actually spending way too much, because they should be utilizing their people and equipment way better, because they don't take the time to really think about where is the equipment, what do I have. So a good way to mitigate that is have a good resource management system in place, that you always know what you have. But also important there after that is, when you have that in place, maintain it. Because typically operations, they want a resource management system, and then don't put the time into maintain it. So after a year, it can be completely outdated. So you need to make sure that you keep it up to date.
Nice. Big question. So how is digitalization and automation impacting the TIC industry, and what opportunities does it present for companies operating within the space?
It's really positively impacting the industry. I think you get a way more reliable inspection, especially when it's a repeat inspection. Because if you leave it down to people, they choose a different, let's say, starting point, or a little bit of a different level of inspection. But by doing it more automated, the inspection is basically always the same. It's the same starting point, so you really have a good way of looking back and let's say and comparing the different results, and it gives you a very better understanding of the life cycle of the assets of clients. Because at the end of the day, it's one question which is really important for a customer: how long can I safely operate my assets? And if you're able to answer that better, well, that's going to be a very good thing for the client. So also getting through automation a lot of data, and being able to compare that data, and being able to predict what kind of failure or where it is going to be is really important for a customer.
Very good. Bit of a broader question. So how do you approach decision making and risk taking in both your personal and professional life?
Basically the same way. I look at the available information I have, but a big portion of my decision is based on my gut. So if the feeling is right, then I will go for it. And of course, you look for the KPIs there if it's also helping you. But sometimes the KPIs are a bit off, but you still think it's a good idea. and then go for it. And it needs to be done safe, with good quality and ethical. And that's on a personal level, but also on a professional level is really important.
Very, very good. So, closing question. If you could look back in time and give advice to your 21-year-old self, what would that be?
I would tell myself, just don't be afraid of challenges. Go for it and admit when you're wrong and adapt. And don't worry about it. Because if you worry about your mistakes, that's gonna kill you. So go for it and do the best you can.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on, Marcel. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, thank you very much, Thomas. Well, nice, the invitation. Yeah, I appreciate the invitation.
No worries. Awesome. Thank you.